we've been heading down to the community of Mallacoota. All right, please forgive me for my pronunciation. And they're making pretty good progress down there. They're removing, again I stress, they're removing clear and present danger trees for emergency service access only. Okay, so this is a make safe for emergency access. It's not for public access. I just wanted to stress that. So all the narrative I'm about to give you now is around removing clear and present danger trees, which will require a further process of tree removal later on to make it safe for public access and more frequent access. So they're making their way. They've marked down to the bridge. I think it's called Johnson's Bridge, and they're moving with a harvester and a D4 to treat those trees as they go. They also are working up the Wangarabell Road as well, and the intention there is for us to continue into that community and then head north to an area called Roxham, I think it's called, and then we're going to head further north to Nungatta South. So again, that's consistent with our objective of trying to access these outlying communities. And we do know, but we're not across them, that there are resources coming in from the west, coming in from Orbost and Can River to try and free things up there along the Princess Highway. So, but our fairly small team is doing a lot of really good work there. What we're also finding now is that there are some requests to come in to check on some communication installations in that area as well. So Mount Maramingo is one of them, and there's also some other towers, whether they be Telstra or Optus or Vodafone or somewhere different. And what we're trying to do is prioritise the urgency in being able to assess the status of those towers, the ability for the generators to keep running in those towers, because what that does is it takes us time away from doing this other work, but we do understand that the maintenance of some of those towers is essential or critical, so we're having to triage or prioritise the works there, which is what we're doing at the moment. I just wanted to stress that because that is another dimension to the work that we're actually doing. We're also working with the Marshmead complex to make sure that we've done an assessment of that complex that is being unscathed. It remains unscathed from fire, and we want to keep it that way. So we're also working with MLC on that one as well. We have a view that come Friday, there is going to be some elevated temperatures. I think at this stage it's still around forecast to be about 34 degrees. I'm not sure of the wind. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure of the wind speed. And I stressed here yesterday at the community meeting that the fire risk in Mallacoota is very low now, simply because there's not much more fuel to burn around the town. So I don't want people to be alarmed about the risk around Mallacoota on that Friday. But what we are doing is, with some of these outlying communities where there's some patches of unburnt fuel, we just want to make sure that we're getting around to assess those so that if there is any flare-ups, we're in a position to be able to address those. That's all. I'm just running quickly through my notes here as to whether there's any other aspects to this, and I can't see anything else at the moment, but I will be available for questions and I'll be around after the meeting to answer any queries that people might have. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks Tim. I'd like to invite Dave up, our Health Commander, to give you an update in relation to the health situation.
Thank you. Okay, just go over a few points once again that we've been covering. Obviously, we've got some increased temperatures coming, so we really want to consider those P2 masks. We should be wearing them, and you need to consider your hydration as well. The wind's going to be blowing. We want to be staying away from those areas that are damaged and those houses that are down because of the asbestos risk. Okay, so please consider that when you're out and about. I'm seeing people out there riding bikes and really doing strenuous activities in an atmosphere that's not really conducive to that. So please think about what activities you are doing when you're out and about, those safety risks. You know, we've got a clinic that's working 24/7. but we do have to evacuate you, and that can be problematic if you do get seriously injured. So think about some of those jobs you're doing out there and whether they can wait until things and the road is open and things are a little bit more accessible. Okay. There's a real risk out there with the falling trees as well if you do start to go into some of those areas, so please be mindful of that. There's a fair few animals out and about as well. We've seen a lot more kangaroos getting about, so obviously they've got limited feed, so please be careful if you do approach anything like that. Any animals that are out there, just be alert. They're obviously scared. And then there's the food and safe food handling and just that general hand washing. We really don't need any outbreak of gastro. We're doing well. People have been really mindful, and that's been good because we haven't had that. If you do start to feel unwell and you have any of those symptoms, please get yourself up to the clinic straight away, because that's something we really don't need at the moment, as you'd appreciate. So just going over the services again that we've got. So we've got the clinic 24/7, and there's an increased team of doctors and support professionals there that can help you out. We've got the man here that's got all the extra services, so I will introduce him in a moment. I was just going to go through those. And we're also changing over our ambos as well. Okay, so they've been here. All your local ambos are staying. We've had a couple of them have a rotation. They're doing an amazing job and will continue to be out there, as you'd appreciate. So I'll be changing over hopefully tomorrow, and it's been a real pleasure to have been here in some trying times for you all. Some of those increased services are really starting to focus on your mental health, and some of the things you've been through. So there's a lot of support coming into the community from all that longer term effects. And I'd really encourage you to access those services. And just for a chat, just for a check-in, it's probably time to start thinking about that. And those services are all starting to be brought in. You've got some services here already, but they're all starting to be brought in. And Terry will talk about some of those things as well. The Red Cross ladies, as you'd appreciate, that have been here, they're all psychologically first aid trained. And they've been doing a great job, and they're certainly that first step to have a chat. So, I really appreciate all the work they've been doing, ladies and men. Is there any general questions? I mean, how are people going? Is there any general questions you've got, or I will be here to take questions after. I had Paul here, so we have Paul Dodd. He's a guy that looks like a bikie, but he's a lovely guy, and he's certainly approachable, so don't be scared. And he'll be taking over my role, okay? So, any questions? Thank you. Sorry, and I should introduce Terry, who's been a real support to you all, as you know, and certainly to me. So I thank Terry, and he'll tell you about some of those other services they're really ramping up. Thank you.
All right, thank you for a few moments of your time. If you've been to my previous talks, my aim was to have Thursday as the tripping point for Mallacoota Community Health, or Mallacoota District Health and Support Services. And we are getting there, where we'll be back to almost normal operations. Tomorrow, if the plane comes in, I will have a dentist and a dentist nurse. So if anybody has any dental issues, please call MDHSS, which is the numbers up on the board. You'll be triaged according to your needs, because the dentist is only here for daylight hours, and hope he'll fly out in the early evenings. With that flight comes in the podiatrist, which is available. And we're just setting up a psychologist and a mental health crisis counselor. They've actually just teamed up because they just met, and they'll be announcing on the radio when they're available if you want to come into the center to have a chat to them. And I really do encourage it. Even the littlest thing that might be bothering you, you might want to talk about it and resolve that issue, and you'll feel much better. And I myself have used such services in times like this, and cannot undervalue what they do. It's nothing bad for you to see these people. They are excellent at making you understand your feelings. But anyway, tomorrow on the community radio, they'll announce when they're up and running, and we'll also get it posted on the community board. Friday, if it all goes well, the local Mallacootans will know of Sally, our physiotherapist, and she's flying back in and will be here for a couple of weeks. And as soon as she gets her room up and organized, again, same procedure on the notice board and on the community radio to make appointments to see her at our community health center. I was rushed, got it done quickly. Any questions for me? Nope. You look good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Terry, for that. First of all, in relation to the evacuation process, my understanding is we had 205 people get onto HMAS tools, and also 75 firefighters that needed to be rotated out, and they left. They're due there this evening, approximately 6 p.m. So hopefully get some good news about their journey. Anything bad, so that's good news. I've got Sergeant Glenn Crozer, he'll speak in relation to the air evacuation process that we are trying to continue after this. I've got the community questions, a lot of them I'll hope to answer, and certainly I'll be available for questions. The bulletin, you might be noticed there's a bulletin that's produced, up to bulletin number 7. These are placed in key locations, including the hall here. Please avail yourself to the bulletin and keep yourself up to date in relation to that. It's checked daily and updated, and a lot of questions that can be answered on that. In relation to the Red Cross, they're going to start doing some door knocks within the community, and they'll be going with some information. They'll be focusing their door knocks on areas that are currently not connected to the power grid. So just outside the power grid area at the moment as we see it. And they'll be providing some information. They'll also be registering if you need a generator and if you need wiring to connect to your house. Obviously, that'll provide us some information. We'll identify who may be vulnerable, who have some particular issues, that if we do get some generators in, we can prioritise the delivery of those generators to those people. Also, I'd like to identify there is obviously food available here for your use and for your comfort. That being said, we need to be conscious of the local community businesses that exist within town. So if you are able to, it's encouraged if you could please purchase items as opposed to take items. Notwithstanding, don't begrudge anybody that does take something, but we need to be conscious of the need for those businesses to remain viable for the ongoing the community. So please encourage you to do that, and certainly they're struggling and they need a hand, and I think that's the least we can do to keep them and keep the town going. So please pass that work around. As part of my management team, we're looking at also creating like a Chamber of Commerce representatives to represent the businesses so we can identify their needs. So if anyone has any particular expertise or is a representative from the businesses here, please come up and we can identify a single point of contact that we can include in our meetings to make sure we manage that transition from incident to recovery, which is very important. Moving forward, the Shire Hub at the roundabout, that's manned and it's ready to help. There's information there if you need information in relation to accommodation, also for food or insurance. And also understand that the youth drop-in centre is also now open daily, and it's in the main street. It's an old newsagents, I believe, and maybe Tim might be able to correct me.
Old news agency and the kinder for 12s and under, 12 plus old news agency.
So 12s and plus, the old news agency. There are supervisors there and activities to keep those young adults entertained and busy.
And less than 12s at the kinder.
Less than 12s at the kinder, where they've appropriate supervisors there to try and engage the young people there. I know the big question, I no doubt, is going to be in relation to roads. I don't have an update, but what I can tell you is, if you do something silly and you do go and try and run the gauntlet, you are risking your lives, plain and simple. We've had incidents thus far. We've had a person try and run the gauntlet up past Genoa, come across a fallen tree, had to stop, couldn't get around it. They could turn around and come back. Lo and behold, a tree had fallen behind them. To me, that validates the risk that exists to you people. And what that does to us, it puts us in a position of compromise, because now the emergency services go out there and make that safe and get them back out of there. So please, please don't try and run through the roads. That's my message. It is unsafe. And that's it from me. I'll hand over now in relation to Sergeant Glenn Crozen, who will give you an update in relation to the air evacuation process. Thank you.
Good evening. I spoke last night. I'm sort of coordinating the effort from the Victoria Police side. Again, I should reiterate that we don't control the aircraft and don't control any of the flights. We've had just over 1,700 people evacuated from here sort of over the last, I guess, sort of 10 days or so. I think we've done pretty well with that. The focus for the aircraft now is not so much on an evacuation process, it is to get supplies into the town. It's quite fluid and dynamic, and at different stages I can get late notification that we can get people out. I just implore that you need to really speak to the Red Cross here every day and register to say that if you want to get out by plane, let them know, because I might get notified that a plane's leaving East Sale. It's a 40-minute flight time, and that when that plane gets here, it can take passengers. So it'll be a phone call from us saying, if you want to go, if you can get to the airport within 40 minutes, I can possibly get you out. But again, that's very fluid, and it might just be a phone call to me saying we can. So I don't want to keep the aircraft on the ground a long time here. It's all about resupply at the moment, trying to get things back into the town. I'm also looking at, I'm coordinating the police response in town at the moment, just in terms of public order. Obviously, a lot of people have left, and there's a lot of caravans and campsites and people's homes that are empty. I guess we want to sort of draw on the locals. You know who should be around and who shouldn't. If you start seeing sus vehicles and people where they shouldn't be, can you please ring the police station? We've got 24-hour coverage here at the moment. We want to try and protect people's interests and their valuables, and we'll try and respond to that as best we can. So our best asset is you as a community. If you can help us to help you. I'll take any questions about air travel if you've got any. But yeah, it's pretty fluid and dynamic. I just need to know if you want to go. It might be very quick notice that I can get you on a plane.
Before we take questions, I know fuel is another important factor. Obviously, by air, the resupply is limited. They can only bring in underslung by choppers at the moment, depending on the weather. So we're conscious of getting some warm days. Don't want to use up all our supplies of diesel. That being said, we are acutely aware of the need for unleaded within the community. It's not lost on us, and we are working hard to try and get that resource in here to help you with your generators. If and when, I don't know, but as soon as it's in, we'll try and keep that supply happening for your generators. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
With the unleaded regarding vehicles, can you get petrol? Is it a ration $15 or something, or what?
Well, the preference for vehicle travel at the moment, you raise a good point, which I have a file to cover. We're trying to limit petrol, if we can, to just the jerry cans to power people's generators. That's my primary response. And if you're using jerry cans to then fuel your vehicle, I think you might have to have maybe a look at yourself and how they might be affecting the community and other people. That being said, what we're also keen to do is identify who within the community potentially have a disability and rely upon vehicle travel for mobility. So if that's the case, we might want to prioritise a little bit of petrol so you guys can get to these meetings if you have absolutely no other way to get here, or you may be potentially disabled. You're certainly first and foremost in our thoughts to assist you. Thank you for your question, sir. Anybody else? Yes, mate. Look, I know, and I get the question. It's 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks 2 weeks ago, and 2 weeks 5 days ago. We don't have. I don't like to keep saying 2 weeks because it makes me look like a goose. And I'll give you accurate information. We are fighting hard for that information, and the best people to feed us information is Forest Fires Victoria, and their clearance rate from here. And we've just got some decent heavy machinery that's going to help us out, and we're trying to get some more. So we put in some requests for more heavy machinery, and we actually got the council working hard with the dredge down at Bastion Point, so we can lower the sandbar to enable if Choules is able to come back and drop some supplies off. I'm not saying they're going to, but we got that avenue of approach open for them, so we can float some heavy machinery in, which was a restriction last time. So if we can get those roads open, we will, and it will punch hard through that with the heavy machinery. Yes, sir.
Just on that point about road closure, like Melbourne's about 500 k's away. I'm interested in to know Maroonville is about 100 k's. So between here and the airport at Maroonville, is there any idea when that should be open?
No, the question relates to if the air from here, sir, to Maroonville Airport. Yes. Is that right? Yes. There is no indication I have in relation to that. But what I'll do, I'll make a note and I'll ask. But no, from here to Maroonville Airport, no, there is no update.
Thanks very much.
I understand some people may have some personal questions which may not want to raise in this forum. So please, if you wish, you can we'll remain to answer your questions and keep you as informed as we can. I thank you all for your time and for your patience, and yeah, good day. Thank you. Again, tomorrow's meeting will maintain it at 1700, but we'll probably be looking to scale them back to 1400, so that's 4 p.m. But tomorrow will be 5 p.m. Moving forward, we'll bring it back to 4 p.m. 5 p.m. tomorrow. See you all then. Thank you.